Hey guys, welcome back to Brian's Mysteries and Adventures on Trail. And today we are going to be talking about a case that I was able to investigate while I was out west before things all went to hell. It was one of the cases I was able to go and check out and sort of retrace some of the steps. And also I was able to talk to some people about it. And this is the disappearance of Chris Sylvia. And Chris actually went missing quite a while ago. He went missing on February 24th of 2015. So this was several years ago, and he went missing off the Pacific Crest Trail. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Pacific Crest Trail is a national scenic trail. It runs from Campo, the border of California and Mexico, all the way up to Canada. It's 2,653 miles long. I personally have hiked over half of it. I wanted to hike more of it this year, but unfortunately, I was injured, and but I had planned, of course, on covering some of these cases, and I have covered the other cases of missing hikers on the Pacific Crest Trail, and a lot of them have recently gotten more media attention. Here's the map of the Pacific Crest Trail. Chris's case sort of hasn't really gotten a lot of media attention, and his case is one that I actually do think that foul play could be a possibility, and we're going to talk about it. This is a picture I took. It's on the Pacific Crest Trail. These are all down in the area of where he went missing, and he went missing between Anza and Warner Springs, and it's not really a big stretch, and it's not one of the harder stretches. It's actually one of the easier stretches. It's not very mountainous. It's a little bit rugged, but it's not one of the more dangerous sections. So there's a lot of curiosities here, because Chris was considered to be a very experienced hiker, not only by his friends and family, but people that met him on the trail. He just was very into the outdoors. If you look on this map, you can see where Anza is, and he did not make it that far before he went missing. Now in February, in that area, they still do get cold weather, snow, but at the time, according to the weather reports, it wasn't bad when he was actually on trail at the time. There are bears, black bears, and mountain lions in the area, but I have never heard of any attacks on hikers by black bears or mountain lions in that area. But it is something that, just to keep in the back of your mind. So basically, he set out on his hike. He was doing a southbound hike. His plan was to go from Anza down to the border to Campo. That's what people think. Now, this part is sort of up for debate. And again, these pictures are all of that area of the trail where he went missing between Anza and Warner Springs. He started his journey on February 12, 2015. On February 16th, he called a friend and asked to be picked up the next day at the Buddhist Temple on Chihuahua Valley Road. Now, I've been to this temple. It's a fairly popular stop. A lot of hikers like to go and see it. However, Chris never made it to his rendezvous. On February 20th of that same year, another hiker found Chris's gear laid out along the PCT near mile marker 127, which is not that far from Mike's place, which is a fairly popular stop for hikers, and it's not that far from Warner Springs. It's only like maybe 12 to 15 miles. Despite a huge search effort that included, SAR and dog teams, they were not able to find Chris. And he still, unfortunately, remains missing to this day. Chris was 28 years old at the time he went missing. He was wearing brown hiking boots, a dark colored jacket, and green pants. And he's roughly 5'8" to 5'9", 155 pounds. He's got hazel eyes and brown hair. Now, there's a lot of things that sort of went wrong here. First of all, when Chris didn't make his rendezvous those 2 days later when he was supposed to meet his friend at the Buddhist monk's temple, the friend just thought that Chris decided not to stop for supplies, and so he didn't actually alert the sheriff's department until February 24th, and that was actually when Chris was expected to finish his hike, reach his destination in Campo. So unfortunately, a lot of time had gone by between the time he was last seen and when it was reported. And then of course the gear was found sort of in the middle of that. And what is even weirder is there's a road, Route 79, which is off of Warner Springs, and about 13 miles off that, I'm going to have a map here with some pictures so you can see. So this is the dot is where the Buddhist temple is. His ID was found on the side of this highway on Route 79, 13 miles north of Warner Springs, nowhere near the temple or where he had started his hike. This is one of the first pieces of evidence that kind of leads me to believe that there might have been foul play involved, because really there's only two ways that ID could have gotten there. He either had it on him and he was, walking on that road for some reason and dropped it, or somebody else had it and just tossed it out the window to get rid of evidence. I can't really think of how else it could have gotten there, especially because all the rest of his gear was found laid out next to the trail on mile marker 127. Like I was saying earlier, this is one of the easier sections of the trail as far as terrain. It's not the sort of territory that you'd figure somebody would normally get lost in, because there isn't a lot of vegetation. There isn't a lot of rugged mountains. It is a little rugged in ways, but it's very open. If somebody lost something, it would be in this section, it would be easier to find in a lot of the other sections, because it's just very open and there's just not a lot of vegetation. This clip is sort of gives you kind of a good idea of what the terrain looks like there. I mean, you can see it's a little rugged, but it's very open. It's not very grown over. So, if somebody was laying down, or, it would stick out much more than in other areas of the trail. Not only that, this whole area was extensively searched by search and rescue dog teams, and they were at it for several weeks, and they found nothing. Even more interesting, according to the friend that was supposed to pick him up, during one of their phone calls prior to that, the friend got the impression that he had already been to the Buddhist temple, and the Buddhist temple is quite a ways off of the PCT, so the distance between Anza and where his stuff was found and the Buddhist temple, he would have had to have gotten a ride from someone to get from the Buddhist temple back to the trail where his stuff was found, if we assume that that's where he went missing. Again, it's hard to assume that because his stuff was found there, his ID was found somewhere else, so it is a very confusing case. Apparently there's an RV park close to by that mile marker, and it's home to a lot of really nice trail angels. And one of the Reddit users who studied this case in depth, he actually went and visited that park, and he theorized that Chris had gotten a ride from one of the trail angels there to go to the Buddhist temple and then back to the trail. Unfortunately, when this Reddit user went to the RV park to talk to the guy who may have given him the ride to the temple, that man had passed away, so there was no way to follow up on that or confirm that could have possibly happened. But Chris was a very experienced hiker, and from him to get to Anza to where his stuff was found, it shouldn't have taken more than 2.5 days, considering what his friends and family said about the normal pace that he did and how he hiked. And according to his mother, his friends, his people that he's hiked with, Chris would have never left his hiking gear, just abandoned it, left it there, lying around. So this is another reason that I believe that something nefarious happened to him. I think that he either met with foul play, or he might have, I guess it's possible he could have walked off to go to the bathroom and suffered an injury. But again, in that area, it's just very unlikely. And it's hard to theorize exactly what happened, because I am leaning towards foul play on this one, but I don't think it was, drug smugglers or anything like that. That can happen in Southern California, not so much anymore now that weed is legal, but that area is pretty far from the border. So I don't know. I guess you can't rule it out, but I think that, Chris set off for this journey and he got to where his stuff was found, and maybe he met that guy from the RV park, got a ride, went to the Buddhist monk place, came back, and something happened after he came back, whether he met with foul play there or if he, went to go to the bathroom and something happened. I don't think it was animal predation. I think that if that had been the case, there would have been signs and they would have found something, especially with the amount of searching they did in this type of area that's very open and exposed. But the fact that his gear was laid out right next to the trail and his ID was found off the highway, miles away from there, it's just very bizarre to me. And unfortunately, that leads me to believe that it might have been foul play, especially because they didn't find a body. Because again, in this area, it's so open and exposed. I mean, it's not. A lot of the people that have researched this case said the same thing. There's no real place to just put a body. I mean, it would be seen eventually, especially, over the years, and, the searchers would have found it, but it's not an area where there's like a lot of shrubs and bushes or things that you can hide things. And a lot of people that have looked at this case have said the same thing, that, by this point, another hiker, somebody would have found something. So, in this particular case, I'm leaning towards foul play, but obviously I can't say definitively. I don't have any evidence to support this. I just have the clues that I found and what I found in my research. There's also things that we can learn from this case. I'm not saying anything negative against his friend, as I'm sure he's gone to hell and back again, wondering what happened to his best friend and roommate. But something to consider is that if you ever are going to pick somebody up on the PCT or any trail and they miss their rendezvous, you definitely want to sound the alarm right away, because you're much better off having a false alarm and, having a few people be put out than, waiting several days. And because time is always critical in these cases. The more time that passes, the less chance you have of finding the person. And that's just what we've learned over the years and what statistics tell us. In Chris's case, there's just so many questions. I mean, why was his ID found on the side of the road? Why was his gear laid out on the side of the trail miles away? How was he able to get to the Buddhist Temple without his friend giving him the ride? I mean, why didn't he show up for the rendezvous when he was supposed to meet his friend? What happened to Chris? These are all questions I'm sure his friends and family all really want to know. And hopefully, one day somebody will come forward or somebody will find something and they'll be able to find closure, because I can't imagine how hard it's been on them. Just to summarize and do a quick recap, Chris Sylvia was hiking from Anza to Campo. He left on February 12, 2015. On February 16th, he called his friend and asked to be picked up the next day, February 17th, at the Buddhist Temple on Chihuahua Road. He did not make that rendezvous. Chris is 5'8" to 5'9". He's got brown hair, hazel eyes. He does have some tattoos on his side. Was thought to be wearing brown hiking boots, dark color jacket, and green pants. On February 20th, 2015, another hiker found Sylvia's gear alongside the PCT near mile marker 127, and his ID was found off of Route 79 about 13 miles north of Warner Springs. I'm just hoping Chris's case starts getting more media coverage again, and hopefully the more people that see this and maybe any other articles or videos that are made, and just help his friends and family find closure. I want to dedicate this video to Chris Stevens Sylvia, his friends and family, and just hoping you can find closure, and hopefully Chris can be brought to you home soon, one way or another. If you have any information regarding this case, please contact the San Diego Police Department at 858-565-5200. Thank you everybody, as always, for watching. I appreciate all your support. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Please keep the comments respectful. And a special thank you to coag.ag for providing the background music. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.